What's up, cleaners? Today we're going to be tackling economy here in Back for Blood. And I have quite a few points to make here. Hopefully, you guys will learn a thing or two from this video. This comes from about a little over 300 hours of gameplay. Probably about a half of that spent grinding out SWAT skins for Nightmare. So this stuff is tried and tested. And some of this data not only the data, but some of these opinions rather come from some of my Discord buddies. So if you guys want to join my Discord, it's a Mafia Discord. The link is going to be in the description below. We actually do talk about a lot of like late game kind of unique stuff or opinions that's going on in the game. So yeah, if you guys do join the Discord, you'll be right there in our discussion, probably learning a thing or two, because there are a couple of us that have even more experience in Nightmare than I do, and have kind of changed my opinion on some things. But anyway, like I said, I have a lot of points to go over, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Money Grubbers. I know a lot of people love some Money Grubbers. Even after it was nerfed to the max, I think it was max 100 per pile that you get. Now it's like 75. So I'm going to pull up this chart here that my buddy made here in Discord. And he has a really good point. So basically, it's going to take 16 piles. And keep in mind that Money Grubbers resets every single level. So you have to get 16 piles per level to equal what Share the Wealth is going to give you. And here's why I don't really care for Money Grubbers. Because most of the time with Money Grubbers, you're going to want to combine it with Copper Scav. So that's one or two cards. Let's go ahead and say you're doing the Copper Scav Money Grub combo. That's two cards in your deck that you could be using to make a more balanced economy deck. So later on in the video, I'm going to show you the balanced economy / medic deck that I use. And so yeah, maybe you guys can take something away from that deck. But anyway, basically, Money Grubbers is gonna let's go ahead and say you're using the Money Grubbers Copper Scav combo. That's gonna be two cards in your deck that you could be using for something else. And I'm gonna show you guys a couple of cards that you could be using instead of those two that are gonna probably equal out or maybe even be better for you in your team in the long run. But anyway, yeah, the chart here, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is going to be a nice bonus for you if you're running Copper Scav and Money Grubbers. But in my opinion, if at least two people have Share the Wealth, that's going to be a lot of extra money without even having to get any copper or worry about the Money Grubbers bonus at all. I mean, if you imagine at least two people rocking Share the Wealth, maybe even 3 or 4 people rocking Share the Wealth, you're not going to have to worry about any kind of economy here. So, I mean, honestly, you don't need anybody rocking a full economy build, but rather just have, 2 or 3 people sacrifice one card and switch it out for Share the Wealth. You're going to be just fine. So I have a lot of points to make just under Money Grubbers versus Share the Wealth. So let me go ahead and get started. I've already covered the Grubbers chart and the fact that it takes 16 piles to equal Share the Wealth. But let's talk about how it doesn't stack on death. So if you are the one with Money Grubbers and you die, then it's not going to keep stacking the Money Grubbers bonus when you're dead. So if, let's say I have Money Grubbers and I've picked up, let's say 7 piles. We're at the bonus of 84. No, we're at the bonus of Money Grubbers, let's see, 7 piles, 21. The total bonus would have been 84. But we're stacking 21 on top of each pile. So if I die after collecting the 7th pile and I get revived, and let's say the team has, collected maybe 5 piles, we're going to be gonna revive and be back or caught up with what we should be at 11 piles. We're gonna start at 8 piles if we collect our next one. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys are following me here. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. It makes sense though. If you're dead, you're not actually collecting gold, which is a whole nother point. Like if you're the one with econ and you die, you're pretty much useless. Unless like share the wealth is, I mean, you can't go wrong with share the wealth because it doesn't matter if you die or not. You're getting that bonus in the safe rooms. I also want to talk about the fact that Money Grubbers is not going to be, Money Grubbers is not going to be useful for the last level of each checkpoint. If you're typically in Nightmare, because it's so hard, you're going to be running from checkpoint to checkpoint instead of sitting down for a whole act in one sitting like you can easily do in Recruit. And it's very doable in Veteran as well. If you're experienced enough and have good players, you can easily get through a whole act on one continue on Veteran, making economy a lot more valuable than checkpoint to checkpoint. But with Money Grubbers, all the copper that you collect on the last mission of each checkpoint is pretty much useless. You're not going to be able to spin that, right? The vendor closes. Most of the time, you're not going to backtrack anyway, unless it's the first couple of minutes of a round. Then you can go back and buy stuff out of the box. But hopefully you guys understand, like, Money Grubbers isn't exactly useful on the last mission. And I also want to compare Money Grubbers on the first mission to Share the Wealth. So if you have Share the Wealth at the very beginning of a mission, or at the very beginning of a checkpoint rather, you're going to be getting that gold immediately before you even start the level. So that's that extra gold you'll be able to pull with your team and use immediately. And then you're going to run that first mission. Say if you have Money Grubbers and Copper Scav, you're going to be collecting a nice bit of bonus gold, or copper rather. And then you're going to get to the next safe room where Share Their Wealth is going to queue again. So in that span of time, let's say you collect 16 copper piles to make Grubbers equal to Share the Wealth. That's only equal to Share the Wealth for one safe room. You're hitting 2 safe rooms in that amount of time. So really from Share the Wealth, you're not just getting 400 extra copper for your team. You're getting 800. So 16 piles on the first mission for Money Grubbers is not going to equal what Share the Wealth would give you in that same amount of time. Just another point for you guys to take note on. Let's see what else we've got here. I've got a list of stuff here I want to go over in depth. So yeah, typically Share the Wealth is going to be better than Grubbers. And like I said, the value is going to decrease for full econ builds if you're doing checkpoint to checkpoint, because you're going to lose all of that copper if you're queuing up for another checkpoint after you've hit the end of a checkpoint, right? And if you go full econ and you're sitting down for one sitting, you're going to end up having way more copper than you can even spend, even if you're buying both upgrades. If you go full econ. That's why I don't really care to go full econ. I'd rather have like a balanced build. Sometimes if I'm feeling lazy, I like to run my own little build here where I can sit back and be a medic when people need it. They can run back to me. I'm not really at the front lines at all. And yeah, I mean, it kind of works out that way. I like a balanced economy. Like, you can go economy and medic. You can go economy and support damage, or whatever. You don't typically go, I mean, I guess you could go speedrun econ, but really, if you're the primary speedrunner for a sitting, you're gonna want to go for as many stamina cards as you can. And I actually have a full speedrun build for my primary speedrunner. If you guys want to check that video out, it's really probably gonna help you guys if you're not used to speedrunning. And it even has some extra points there where a lot of people don't really realize when speedrunning. You'll need like certain cards. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to compound interest. So you guys know compound interest gives 10% of your copper that you're holding back to you when you go into a safe room. So for this to really be effective, you're going to need everybody to drop you the copper at the end of each mission before you get into the safe room to get as much out of compound interest as you can. But I want you guys to keep in mind, it's going to take 4,000 copper to get what Share the Wealth would give you. 4,000 copper. Now, what I don't like about compound interest is that everybody needs to be alive at the end of each mission for you to get the most out of it, right? And you guys probably know, if you're experienced with Nightmare, very rarely is everybody alive at the end of a mission. But what I also don't like about compound interest is that it incentivizes you to hold on to as much copper as possible instead of spending it on, healing stations, upgrades, certain items you might need. And I don't really like that, because that can be very detrimental to a run if you're holding back from spending money. What I like to replace compound interest with, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I know a lot of you guys aren't going to feel the same way, but I like to replace compound interest with either offensive or support scav. Because honestly, if you're picking up the items that you're going to have to end up buying anyway at the next safe room, you're saving that much more money. And you're not having to worry about, dropping all the gold, or copper rather, to somebody who is holding compound interest. So offensive or support scav, if you have the room, go ahead and put both. That's why I don't like money grubbers and copper scav combo, because you can be using support scav or offensive scav and collecting that stuff as you run through a mission, looting, saving you money. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So let's see, what other point I have under combat? Player with the card must survive to have, not only do all the other players need to survive to drop you that copper at the end of the level, but the player actually holding compound interest has to survive. And if you're just a support or econ build, there's a good chance you might not make it, right? Even especially, I feel like there are ways while speedrunning to basically collect as much mutations and horde at the safe room as the speedrunner as you can, to basically save all the other characters the trouble of dealing with that while running to the safe room. But if you're not playing that playstyle and you're making the economy character slow play it through the mission as a group, there's a good chance, they're not going to make it, because they're not built for DPS. They're not built for extra health. They're built for strictly economy and support. 9 times out of 10 at least. So making that person, whoever's holding compound interest, have to get to the safe room alive isn't exactly something I'd bet on. And honestly, I don't, like I said, it takes 4,000 copper just to equal Share the Wealth. So if you have somebody else just take a card off and you Share the Wealth, it's going to be a lot easier than having to deal with everything compound interest comes with. So even if the compound interest holder makes it to the safe room, a lot of the times they're not going to have 4,000 copper on them. Maybe 2,000, in which case they'd get, 200 copper from interest. But if you think about, let's say they have 2,500 copper on them by the end of a mission going into the next safe room. That's equal to hazard pay. So on average, compound interest is not going to give you as much as hazard pay, and it's a lot more risky, in my opinion, to rock that. I'm probably never going to use compound interest in my life. Unless they buff it to 20% or higher, I really don't think it's worth it. I think it's better to just use hazard pay and put that early on in your build. But that's pretty much all I have to say about compound interest. Now, I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this, if you have any. Maybe, I know a lot of you are probably watching this just to get ideas, but I know some of you that are watching this have very strong opinions about economy and how to go about it. So what are your thoughts on compound interest? Do you think it's worth it over hazard pay, or even, making somebody else share the wealth for that extra 400 bonus at each safe room? And I have one more point to make. Now, if you were using compound interest before, or if you were using money grubbers and copper scav, which isn't terrible, honestly, but in my opinion, if you have a couple of people rocking share the wealth, then you're gonna be fine economy wise for the rest of a run. You're not necessarily gonna need that extra from grubbers and copper scav. If you have the room, go ahead, but in my opinion, it's not worth rocking. So I would replace those. I would replace those cards. If you're rocking grubbers and copper scav combo, think about replacing those with surplus pouches and box of bags, because that's 15. Each one of those cards are a 1,500 copper upgrade in the safe room. If you roll that upgrade, you're not always going to get the upgrades you want in the safe rooms. But if you get both of those cards, surplus pouches and box of bags, that's 3,000 copper in upgrades that you're saving. Think about the amount. That's a full run worth of compound interest and a whole lot of money grubbers copper scav just in 2 cards, and you get them immediately. If you put surplus pouches and box of bags higher up in your deck earlier on, then you're automatically 3,000 copper ahead. So definitely keep in mind. I feel like surplus pouches and box of bags is undervalued. Like I said, I do want to hear you guys' opinion on this. This is tried and tested. This comes from a pool of opinions here in the Discord. If you guys would like to join Mafia Discord and join our SWAT team, just let me know. I will give you the SWAT role. You will get notifications when other SWAT members are looking for nightmare runs, and you're gonna be, you're gonna be able to see like very experienced, like honestly, I'd say probably like top 1% of Back for Blood players' opinions on a lot of stuff that has to do with running a nightmare. And we're talking advanced deck builds, advanced strategies, and all kinds of stuff. It's probably worth it for you guys to join that Discord, even if you're not looking to grind out SWAT skins. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you guys think about anything I said. If you guys have any opinion or you disagree with anything I said, I'd really like to hear it. I'm sure other people want to hear it too. So just comment below. That's pretty much all I have to say about economy. The fact that money grubbers and copper scav is a little overrated. Sure, the wealth is very undervalued, and compound interest is extremely irrelevant and should probably never ever be used. I'll catch you guys on the flip flop.